She was a desperate daughter working 3 jobs to save her mother, but one exhausted mistake in the wrong office just cost her everything. When Zainab Adeyemi accidentally shatters a $380,000 secret, the man who owns the room, the cold, breathtakingly handsome Han Joon, doesn't call the police. He buys her life instead. Now trapped in his high-tech penthouse under a contract that monitors her every breath, Zainab must navigate a world of clinical perfection where the only thing more dangerous than the crushing debt is the dark, silent obsession of the man who holds her signature. Hey, besties, grab your tea, silence the group chat, and let the story begin. Welcome to OppaTolani Besties Folktales, where Nigerian hearts meet Korean dreams. If you enjoy cozy stories like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join the Besties family. And tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? Zainab Adeyemi had been awake for nearly 20 hours. Her small apartment in Seoul had no warmth, no familiar sounds of Lagos. But she had no time to think about home. Mama's surgery, the bills, her siblings, everything pressed on her like a weight she could not drop. She moved through Han Joon's office quietly. Every surface gleamed under her cloth. She checked the corners twice, as the tablet had instructed. She had learned quickly. Han Joon did not tolerate mistakes. In Korea, discipline mattered, and he demanded it. Her legs ached. Her arms trembled. Her phone buzzed once in her pocket. She ignored it. Mama's nurses would call again if needed. Her sister's messages waited patiently. Mama is resting. The doctor says the surgery tomorrow. Zainab swallowed. She whispered a silent prayer in Yoruba. Olajimere, help me keep her alive. She worked mechanically. Her body wanted rest, but her mind refused. She glanced at the large leather chair behind Han Joon's desk. She had never sat in it before. She was not allowed to, but fatigue made her knees weak, her arms heavy. 1 minute, she murmured, hoping it would be enough. She sank into the chair. The leather was smooth and unfamiliar under her hands. Her eyelids grew heavy. Memories of home slipped in her mind. Mama's soft voice calling her for meals, the sound of Lagos traffic, the smell of jollof rice simmering. Her body relaxed. Her mind drifted to numbers, hospital bills, debts, salaries from 3 jobs. She signed papers she barely understood. She nodded, even when panic rose in her chest. Her head tilted back. Sleep came without asking permission. At 3:15 a.m., Han Joon entered. He froze. Someone was in his chair. Someone had touched his things. His order. His control. It was a foreign presence, yet familiar. He recognized the cleaning uniform. The logo. Her name. Zainab. She was asleep. Han Joon felt anger rise, sharp and sudden. Discipline was everything. Disorder invited mistakes. Mistakes were unacceptable. He stepped closer. The chair creaked. Zainab stirred. Her eyelids lifted slowly. She blinked, then focused on him, startled. He did not speak. He just watched. And for a single moment, time slowed. Zainab's chest tightened. Seoul felt colder. Lagos seemed far away. She did not know that this Zainab woke slowly, her body stiff. Her eyes met Han Joon's for the first time. His gaze was sharp, dark, and unreadable, like the streets of Seoul at night, silent, unyielding. She scrambled upright, her heart racing. I'm sorry, she stammered in accented Korean. I didn't mean to. You know where you were sitting, Han Joon said, voice low, precise. His words were calm, but every syllable carried weight. Yes, Zainab whispered, trembling. I won't do it again. You already did, he replied. His eyes flicked to the chair she had occupied. The leather was untouched, yet somehow it felt violated. Zainab's thoughts raced. Mama, hospital bills, surgery. Every second counted. Please, she said softly. I was just resting. 1 minute. Han Joon's expression did not change. This is not a resting place. This is my office. Rules exist for a reason. I understand, she said quickly, bowing slightly, a habit she had learned in Seoul, trying to show respect without losing herself. You broke your contract, he said. Your agency will be informed. Panic seized her chest. Please don't. Her hand shook. If I lose this job, my mother, she will die. I have no one else. Please, I beg you. Han Joon's eyes narrowed slightly. He did not answer immediately. Silence stretched between them like a taut rope. I have 3 jobs, Zainab continued, voice breaking. I send everything home. I sleep 4 hours at most. Still, it is not enough. I only want to keep this one job, just for her. The words hung in the air. Soul felt heavy around her, foreign yet suffocating. She remembered praying silently in Yoruba. Olajimere, help me. Han Joon's gaze softened slightly, not in kindness, but in calculation. He could tell when someone was lying. Zainab was not lying. How much? He asked finally, his voice low. $140,000, she said. Her throat tightened. She forced herself to speak clearly. For my mother's surgery. They said if I don't pay, she may not survive. He did not respond immediately. He studied her face, her posture, her shaking hands, her fear, her determination. Then Zainab acted instinctively. She reached toward his wrist, gently touching it. It was accidental, but in that instant, a sharp, electric shock ran through him. His custom phone slipped from his hand and shattered on the floor. Zainab froze. Her eyes widened. I'm so sorry. Han Joon looked down at the broken phone, then at her. The office soul, even her accent, all of it felt charged in that moment. I said one mistake, he muttered, more to himself than to her. But Zainab could not move. She had only one thought. Mama must live. I cannot fail. The shattered pieces of Han Joon's phone lay between them. Zainab froze, her heart hammering. I didn't mean to touch you, she said quickly. Do not touch me again, Han Joon interrupted, his voice low, precise. He crouched to pick up the pieces, his fingers careful, almost clinical. Zainab's chest tightened at the sight of his calm, controlled movements. She had never seen anyone so exact, so Korean in his habits, every motion deliberate. I can't pay that, she whispered, nodding toward the broken phone. Her accent, faint but present, betrayed her fear. I know, he replied simply. The office fell silent. Zainab could hear her own heartbeat over the quiet hum of Soul's night outside the window. My mother, she began, faltering, but forcing herself to speak. She has cancer. They told me. If the surgery doesn't happen on time, she may not survive. I worked 3 jobs. I've slept 4 hours at most. I send everything home to pay for her care. Still, it's not enough. Han Joon looked up slowly. His eyes, dark and sharp, studied her. Not her words. Her eyes. They were red from lack of sleep, but determined. She wasn't begging. She wasn't lying. He recognized honesty. How much? He asked. $140,000, Zainab said, her voice trembling. It's for her surgery. Please, sir, I just need this job so I can save her life. Han Joon was silent. He did not move. Seoul's streets hummed faintly below, but here, in his office, time seemed to stop. Zainab swallowed hard. Memories of Legos flashed in her mind. The smell of jollof rice cooking in Mama's kitchen, the sound of her sister calling her name, the prayers whispered in Yoruba each morning. Olajimere, help me, she prayed again silently. I'm not asking for charity, she said. I need to keep working. Please. Han Joon leaned back, exhaling slowly. You fell asleep in my office, he said. His tone was even, but sharp. You broke my property. Rules exist for a reason. I know, Zainab whispered, bowing her head slightly. She hated bowing, hated feeling so small, but respect was necessary. And yet, he continued, eyes still fixed on her, you risked everything to reach me. What? My mother is alive, she said simply, voice firm despite trembling. That is all that matters. I cannot fail her. For a long moment, Han Joon said nothing. Then he stood. Give me the hospital details, he said quietly. Zainab blinked. Why you? Because, he said, his tone unreadable, this situation is inefficient. Her stomach dropped. She did not understand entirely, but she knew one thing. Her life was about to change. Her phone buzzed again. The hospital called. Zainab listened, breath caught in her chest. Mama was alive. Han Joon said nothing more. Go, he instructed. I will handle the rest. Zainab hesitated, then nodded. For the first time since arriving in Seoul, she felt a spark of relief. Yet fear still lingered. She stepped forward, and the door closed behind her. The rules, the debt, and Han Joon's strange control were only beginning. Zainab barely remembered leaving Han Joon's office. Her legs moved on instinct, her heart still racing from the confrontation. The streets of Seoul felt foreign, crowded, yet strangely quiet compared to the chaos in her chest. She reached her small apartment, set down her bag, and checked her phone. Messages from her sister flooded the screen. Mama's heart stopped? Is she okay? Do they operate? She swallowed hard and called immediately. Yes, she whispered, trying to steady her voice. Mama, she's alive. The doctors are taking care of her. Please tell everyone not to worry. Her sister's voice trembled with relief. Zainab, thank God. Tell me it's really true. Yes, she's alive, Zainab repeated, eyes wet. She ended the call, hands shaking. Olajumer, thank you, she murmured in Yoruba. Hours passed in a blur. When she returned to Han Joon's building, she felt a mix of fear and anticipation. His office doors loomed ahead. She had no idea what awaited her. The broken phone, the accident, the debt. Everything hung between them. She entered the office. Han Joon was already there, standing silently. The new phone rested on his desk, perfect, untouched. You paid everything? Zainab asked softly, still catching her breath. Yes, he replied, his tone flat. For the hospital, the bills, she pressed. All of it, he said. $300,000. Zainab's chest tightened. Her mind reeled. She had expected partial help, not this total, strange generosity. And yet, she knew better. In Seoul, nothing came without strings attached, and Han Joon did not do anything without purpose. And the phone? She asked quietly, nodding toward the replacement on his desk. 80,000, he said. Zainab swallowed hard. She could not imagine repaying such a sum. Her hands shook slightly as she tried to steady herself. Han Joon slid a digital document across the tablet toward her. She glanced down. It was a contract, her name at the top, his at the bottom. Rules, schedules, tasks. Every hour of work accounted for. Every minute of her life now measured. You now owe me $380,000, he said, voice calm, almost indifferent. Zainab's breath caught. She felt both relief and terror. Mama was alive, yes, but what cost? I can't pay that, she whispered. I know, Han Joon replied. His eyes met hers. Which is why you will work it off. For you? She asked, fear and disbelief mingling. Yes, only me, he said simply. Zainab's hands trembled as she closed the tablet. She had survived the night, survived the hospital call, survived Seoul's cold, unfamiliar streets. But now, her life belonged to someone else. The broken phone had been the beginning. The real debt, the one measured in time, obedience, and sweat, was only just starting. Zainab stood in Han Joon's office, staring at the tablet. Her eyes traced the numbers, the rules, the schedule. $380,000. She could hardly imagine it. Every ounce of energy she had was already spent on surviving Seoul, working 3 jobs, and keeping her family alive. Now this was a new kind of burden. Han Joon's gaze was steady, unreadable, but she felt the weight behind it. She knew he had no intention of mercy, only efficiency, control, and calculation. You understand what this means, he said, voice calm, precise, almost cold. Every hour you work reduces the debt. Every mistake extends it. I understand, sir, Zainab replied, bowing her head slightly. Her accent softened the words, but her tone was firm. She was tired, scared, and overwhelmed, but her mother was alive. That mattered more than anything. Han Joon tapped the tablet, bringing up the detailed schedule. 12-hour workdays, 6 days a week. Meals, cleaning, laundry, organizing, running errands, everything timed. Every minute accounted for. You will follow this exactly, he said. Your life will revolve around these hours. Your rest, your meals, your sleep, they are all part of the schedule. Deviate and you pay. Zainab swallowed hard, her mind racing. She thought of Lagos, Mama's kitchen, her family's laughter, the prayers whispered each morning in Yoruba. She whispered another one now, silently. Olajumer, give me strength. I will do it, she said, voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. Good, Han Joon replied. He tapped the tablet again. You will move into my residence immediately. You live where I decide. Your work begins tomorrow. Your focus is total. No outside jobs, no distractions. Understood. Yes, sir, she said, trying to steady her breath. Her heart was heavy, but determination burned inside her. Han Joon slid a digital pen toward her. Sign. Zainab pressed the pen to the tablet. Her signature appeared. The contract was binding. Her life was no longer fully hers. She exhaled, relief mixed with fear. The debt was paid, not with money, but with her promise, her labor, and her obedience. Your mother's care is secured, Han Joon said. Everything is handled. But remember, the debt is only gone when your work is done. Until then, this is your life. Zainab nodded, understanding the weight of the words. Mama was alive. That was victory enough for now. But the road ahead would be long, grueling, and controlled by someone else's rules. She felt a strange mixture of gratitude and fear. Mama was alive. That was the first win. Her own freedom, however, was now tied to the life of a man she barely knew in a city far from home. She took a deep breath, whispering one last prayer in Yoruba, Olajumer, help me endure. And with that, the first step into her new life had begun. Zainab followed Han Joon silently as he led her through the hallway to a room at the far end of the penthouse. Her legs were sore, but exhaustion was nothing new. She had carried heavier burdens in Lagos, balancing school, work, and helping Mama. Yet soul was different. Everything here was precise, controlled, and foreign. This will be your space, Han Joon said, gesturing to a small room. Bare, clean, functional. No decoration, no warmth. She nodded, already knowing it would remain this way. Comfort was not part of the arrangement. He turned and led her back to the office. On his desk, a tablet rested, glowing softly. He tapped it, and a detailed contract appeared. Zainab's eyes scanned it quickly. Her name at the top, his at the bottom. A long list of duties, schedules, and rules followed. Everything from cleaning instructions to precise meal preparations, even instructions on when to rest. Every action she would take was timed and recorded. You understand this? Han Joon asked, his gaze sharp, piercing. I do, sir, Zainab replied, bowing slightly. She had learned in Seoul to show respect without surrendering herself entirely. Your life will revolve around this, he continued. Every minute, every action. Efficiency is paramount. Mistakes will extend your debt. Obedience reduces it. Yes, sir, she said, trying to steady her voice. She glanced down at the schedule again. 12-hour days, 6 days a week. Meals, cleaning, laundry, organizing. Everything planned to the minute. You will live here. You will work when I command. There are no exceptions. No outside jobs. No visitors. No personal time outside what is scheduled. Zainab swallowed, thinking of Mama, thinking of Lagos, the prayers, the smells of home, the laughter of her siblings. She whispered quietly in Yoruba, Olajumer, give me strength. Han Joon tapped the tablet again. Sign. Her hand trembled slightly, but she pressed the digital pen against the screen. A beep confirmed her signature. It is binding, he said. Your work begins tomorrow. You will follow this schedule precisely. Any deviation will cost time, and time costs debt. Understood. I understand, she said, her voice firmer now. The fear was still there, but beneath it burned determination. Mama was alive. That was enough motivation to endure anything. Han Joon's eyes scanned her carefully. He did not smile, did not soften. This arrangement is private. No one else needs to know why you are here. I will not tell anyone, Zainab replied. He nodded once. Then your life begins tomorrow. Remember, survival is not kindness. Survival is efficiency. Obey. Execute. Endure. Zainab felt the weight of the words, the reality of the golden cage closing around her. She nodded silently. Her world had shifted completely. And yet, somewhere deep inside, a small flame of determination burned. She had survived Lagos. She had survived hardship before. She would survive this too. The contract was signed. The rules were set. Her new life had begun. Zainab woke before the first beep of the tablet. Her small room in Han Joon's penthouse felt colder than she expected, but she had no time to notice. Today was her first full day following the contract. Her hands trembled slightly, but she straightened her back and whispered a quiet prayer in Yoruba, "Olajumer, guide me today." The tablet glowed beside her, displaying the day's schedule. Every task had a start time and an end time. Breakfast preparation, cleaning, laundry, organizing supplies, even the short breaks were timed. 12 hours, 6 days a week. No exceptions. She dressed quickly, moving silently. The kitchen smelled faintly of the polished wood and the faint soap Han Joon used. She remembered Lagos, Mama's cooking, the warmth of home. But there was no time for memories now. Only focus. Han Joon appeared in the doorway. His black hair was perfectly in place, his expression unreadable. He did not smile, did not nod. His gaze simply scanned her, as if measuring her for something far more important than breakfast. "Your first task is the omelets," he said, his voice calm but sharp. "3 types. Follow the tablet instructions exactly." "Yes, sir," Zainab replied, bowing slightly. She measured the eggs, separated yolks and whites carefully, and followed each step with painstaking precision. Her hand shook at first, but she adjusted, reminding herself of Mama, of Lagos, of the debt that now tied her life to this man. Han Joon watched silently from the doorway. She felt the weight of his gaze like a second timer, marking every motion. Her chest tightened, but she moved carefully, deliberately. The first omelet was uneven. The second was too thick. By the third, slightly overcooked. She carried them forward, holding her breath. Han Joon examined each plate silently. His face betrayed nothing, but she felt his judgment in every second of silence. "Correct this," he said finally, picking up the first omelet. Zainab returned to the stove, adjusting her method, counting every second, checking the tablet constantly. By the fourth attempt, the omelet was acceptable, just barely. Han Joon nodded once, silently, and moved on to another task. No praise, no soft words, only expectation. She moved to cleaning next, floors, counters, windows, all timed, all precise. Seoul's city hum felt distant as she worked. Every motion measured, every second accounted for. By evening, Zainab's body ached, her muscles stiff and trembling, but she had survived. She had followed the schedule. She had obeyed. Han Joon glanced at her briefly. "Tomorrow will be harder," he said. "Yes, sir," Zainab replied, her voice quiet but steady. That night, lying on the small cot, she closed her eyes. The golden cage had closed around her, but she was alive, Mama was alive, and she had survived the first day. She would endure. She must. Zainab woke to the soft beep of the tablet. Her eyes opened slowly, remembering instantly that today was another long day. 12 hours, 6 days a week. Every second measured, every task timed. She whispered a quick prayer in Yoruba, "Olajumer, help me endure." Then she rose quietly, careful not to wake Han Joon or disturb the precise order of the apartment. Her small room felt foreign, but familiar enough now to move without thinking too much. The tablet glowed with a full day's schedule. Breakfast at 8 a.m., cleaning until 10 o'clock, laundry and inventory until noon, lunch in 20 minutes, more cleaning, errands, dinner, and preparation for the next day. Every movement calculated. She memorized it, tracing the list with her eyes. Han Joon appeared silently in the doorway, black hair sharp against his pale skin. He did not speak, but studied her with that piercing gaze that measured everything. Speed, posture, focus. Zainab bowed slightly, a learned gesture of respect and soul, and then turned to the tablet again. "Follow it exactly," he said finally. "No deviations. Efficiency is the only priority." "Yes, sir," she said, bowing again. The day began. Zainab moved from task to task, cleaning surfaces, arranging items, folding laundry, polishing utensils. All timed, all precise. She felt Seoul's rhythm around her, the distant hum of traffic, the occasional shout of street vendors. But she kept her mind focused on the schedule. Her thoughts drifted briefly to Lagos. Mama calling her for breakfast, her siblings laughing, the smell of jollof rice. She smiled faintly and whispered under her breath, "Olajimere, keep Mama safe." Then she returned to the task at hand. Han Joon observed occasionally, correcting minor errors, but mostly silent. She learned quickly. It was better to anticipate his expectations than wait for instruction. Each completed task felt like a small victory, a step toward repaying the debt that now defined her life. Lunch came. She ate quickly, exactly as the tablet instructed. There was barely time to rest, barely time to breathe. Her muscles ached, but she kept moving, checking the clock, following the schedule. If you have enjoyed this story to this point, you should smash that subscribe button and be part of our circle of besties. Afternoon passed in a blur of cleaning, organizing, and preparation. Every minute accounted for, every movement purposeful. She learned to calculate her efficiency, to balance speed and accuracy, to survive without breaking the rules. Evening arrived, and she finished her last task. Han Joon glanced at her once before retreating to his office. No praise, no soft words, just observation. Zainab leaned against the counter briefly, exhausted but alive. The schedule had controlled every second of her day, yet she had survived. She whispered another prayer in Yoruba, thanking Olajimere for her strength. Even in this golden cage, she realized she could endure. She could survive. And with that realization, she was ready for another day. The first light of Seoul's morning barely touched the penthouse when Zainab entered the kitchen. Her small bag was tucked neatly in the corner of her room, but her mind already ran through the tablet's instructions. Today's task, breakfast, specifically the omelets. 3 varieties. Exact thickness, exact texture, exact presentation. She measured the eggs carefully, separating yolks and whites. The tablet guided her, but she had learned to anticipate Han Joon's standards. Not fast, not slow, precise. Han Joon appeared in the doorway, silently, black hair perfectly in place, hands folded behind his back. His gaze swept over her movements. Zainab felt the familiar tightness in her chest. Seoul was cold, efficient, and unforgiving, just like him. "Yes, sir," she said, bowing slightly. She began the first omelet. The pan sizzled under her careful touch. Every fold of the egg, every tilt of the pan, every second counted. The first omelet came out uneven. She held her breath as he picked it up. His eyes narrowed slightly, but he did not speak. Silence stretched between them, heavy like the early morning streets of Seoul outside the window. "Redo it," he finally said, voice flat. Zainab nodded quickly, heart racing, hands steadying. She returned to the stove. Second attempt, too thick. Third, slightly overcooked. Each time she felt the weight of his gaze more intensely, like the quiet discipline of a Korean classroom, where a single mistake could cost respect. By the fourth attempt, she had it right. The omelet looked perfect, soft, golden, and exactly folded. She plated it carefully, wiped her hands, and stepped back. Han Joon examined it silently, his lips tight. He picked up the second omelet, rotated it, and then set it down without comment. She realized that in this house, approval was given in the smallest gestures, just a nod, a brief acknowledgement, or nothing at all. Zainab moved to the second and third omelets with more confidence. Her body ached, her arms trembled, but she focused on rhythm, timing, precision. Her thoughts flickered to Lagos briefly, Mama's laugh in the kitchen, the way her family gathered for breakfast. She whispered silently, "Olajimere, give me strength today." The 3 omelets were finally completed to Han Joon's satisfaction. He nodded once, almost imperceptibly, and moved on to another task. No praise, no encouragement, just expectation. Zainab exhaled quietly. Her muscles shook, her body screamed exhaustion, but she had survived the first major test of her new life. As she scrubbed the pans and wiped the counters, she realized something important. The omelet was more than food. It was a lesson: precision, patience, and obedience. Each task in Han Joon's world demanded respect and focus. And she had learned it, if only just a little. The golden cage was real, strict, and unyielding, but Zainab had survived its first challenge. The kitchen was quiet except for the soft scrape of Zainab's cloth against the counter. She had finished the omelets and cleaned every utensil, yet her body ached and her mind refused to rest. 12 hours of work loomed ahead, and Seoul's city hum outside felt distant compared to the weight of Han Joon's gaze. He stood in the doorway, as silent and precise as ever. Black hair neatly in place, eyes sharp, measuring every move. Zainab straightened instinctively, bowing slightly, a habit she had learned in Seoul. Though Lagos instincts lingered, a quiet defiance in her posture, a resilience only years of hardship could forge. Your next task, Han Joon said, voice low, is inventory. Every item must be counted, logged, and organized exactly as instructed. Timing is crucial. Yes, sir, Zainab replied, bowing again. Her voice was steady, but her mind was alert. She had learned to work under observation, but today a quiet thought began to grow inside her. Even in this golden cage, she could maintain a small measure of control. She moved quickly, counting, recording, arranging, every item in its place. Yet, subtly, she adjusted movements, placing items slightly more efficiently than instructed, finding a rhythm of her own without breaking the rules. She could feel the tension in her own body, Seoul's precision pressing against her natural instinct, Lagos' resilience pushing back. Han Joon passed silently, observing her without comment. She noticed the slight narrowing of his eyes. He saw but said nothing. At lunch, she followed the schedule exactly, but adjusted the arrangement of plates and cutlery, making it easier to carry multiple trays at once. Han Joon's gaze flickered to her hands, then back to his tablet. He did not intervene. Afternoon tasks followed: cleaning, organizing, checking schedules, polishing surfaces. Every movement timed, every action recorded. Her body screamed exhaustion, yet she held a quiet defiance, a careful assertion that she could survive and adapt within his strict rules. By evening, she was exhausted, muscles trembling, but a small sense of triumph warmed her. She had followed every instruction perfectly, yet found subtle ways to assert herself, to work smarter without angering him. Han Joon glanced at her from the office doorway. His face was unreadable, but Zainab felt the unspoken acknowledgement. She had not defied him, but she had not completely surrendered either. She cleaned the final counters, then paused, taking a deep breath. "Olajumer, keep me strong," she whispered. Even in Seoul, so far from Lagos, her faith remained. For the first time, she realized that resistance did not have to be loud. It could be quiet, precise, strategic. She could survive the cage and still be herself. Han Joon returned to his office. Zainab leaned against the counter, closing her eyes briefly. Her body was exhausted, but her spirit felt stronger. She had endured the day, and she had found a small, unbroken piece of herself within the strict walls of her new life. All right, besties, that's enough emotions for one night. If you survive the feelings, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell us where you're watching from. Until the next story, refill your tea and take care. Good night.